My whole goal for the trip was to really see if I could travel on my own in a foreign country like Japan or Taiwan, non-English speaking countries, and hold my own. If it wasn't the study abroad, I would have done like a group travel tour like Kentucky or Top Deck, which is something I was hearing about even back in my undergrad days. So I was trying to gauge whether I could make it on my own by doing a group trip. Another plus of the group experience was that um, everything was booked for me, so I didn't have to kind of make my own accommodations. I didn't have to figure that all out. I didn't have to figure out the visa situation, and they gave us all the information that we needed for the trip prior. All I had to do was review everything. Overall, one of the other things that I was excited to do, I actually spent time on Duolingo learning Japanese because I just wanted to learn the Japanese language, and I'm still doing it right now. But I spent the time from the time that I learned about my acceptance into the program up until the program, I studied Japanese so I could have some basic conversations with people, and I did pretty well. So Duolingo did help me in my travels be able to ask how much stuff is, what is this, where, if I need to ask where, and to communicate with even the customer service people. So that was a nice thing. As for learning Mandarin, I couldn't pick up on Mandarin. It's a hard language. So I knew how to say hello and I knew how to say thank you, and that really pretty much got me by. Some people did know English, so that helped as well. But I would like to in the future learn Mandarin and return to Taipei. I also did a stopover in Hong Kong, but by the end of the trip, I didn't even get to maximize that because by the end of the trip and the time that I landed, I didn't have any time to even like, go out of the airport. Um, and again, by the end of the trip, I was exhausted and I knew I was getting sick. I could feel I was getting sick from from all the stuff that was going on, and knowing that those people were sick on the trip, I knew I was getting sick too. And then I overhyped Tokyo too much in my head because of, thinking of weeb culture and anime and all those things. And I was like, seeing all the people on YouTube talking about Tokyo this and living in Japan that. And the reality is, everywhere is just a place and everybody's just trying to live. For us as tourists, it's exciting. Just like when somebody from over there comes here for the first time, it's exciting. You're in a new space, you're exploring, and then like that whole like honeymoon, that excitement kind of fades because so yeah, basically the honeymoon phase ended for me after like the first 2 days in Tokyo, and I was like, girl, let me get up out of here. I'm tired. The whole trip, I couldn't really enjoy it to the end because I was PMSy and not necessarily homesick to be home, but homesick for like my stuff, like being where I'm at, where I know. And then, on top of that, I didn't relate to the group because of the age gap and trying to understand that and navigate that. And then I wasn't myself again because I was PMSing the whole trip, and that took me to a different headspace. I had to concentrate on that. And then I ended up having, like, for me, a little breakdown. When you're on your cycle and things like that, things can happen. And then you feel even more isolated because you're in a foreign place. And that's the thing, too. Like, stress also determines your cycle. So I think the stress of the trip itself and the upcoming anticipation of it caused my situation to be early. So I was planning for it to be gone once, or be start once I left the trip. but that wasn't the case because you know nature gotta mess with you somehow. The things that saved me during the trip was I went to Dollar Tree prior to the trip to get my travel size items. I got emergency. They have the emergency powder packets. I would advise getting those from Dollar Tree because they are cheap, or if you buy a whole pack, whatever. I went to Target also to get emergency, the travel size Midolls, which come in individual packs, which is great. Um, so those saved me prior. I got these like travel towels where it's like a compressed towel, camping towels. Those were nice because you could put water on them and like cool yourself down in the heat. Um, the Pocari Sweat, the equivalent to Gatorade, the electrolyte beverage, that was helpful. Um, and then what else? What else? What else? The convenies, the 7-Elevens on every corner, the Family Marts, those were awesome for your onies. If y'all like, I mean, if you've had onigiris, you know what they are. They're delicious, and it's convenient, especially, and it's cheap. It's cost effective. So even if you didn't want to eat something for real, you just go to the conveni, get you a little oni, or get you a tuna mayo, and you good. Like, and get you a little water, whatever, you're good for the night. All in all, would I do another group travel trip? Probably not for as long, and if I did, I would do an older group travel with people around my age. I wish they would have had a program that was specifically for graduate level students, because you know you're going to be with people of your own age range. Not that that's an issue for me, but I think for other people, they kind of look at you um, and they're standoffish. And on top of that, for me, I'm kind of socially awkward anyway, so that always is off-putting to people. If they don't know you, they don't want to get to know you, so that's a whole different thing. But would I do another group travel trip? Probably, but for the most part, I think I will stick to solo travel. So my advice would be, if you're like an introverted person or a socially awkward person or a socially anxious person, solo travel might be your best option. I've found for me in the past, like traveling in the States, obviously as a woman, you're gonna attract people, but I found it better to do solo travel, stay in hostels, stay in certain environments where you'll meet people and do things where you'll meet people versus being on an actual planned tour where you can't control what you do. Because that's another thing. When you book with a tour group or a tour company, you do what they planned. So a lot of the times, and what I've heard from people on YouTube and their reviews of group travel, is that you rarely get enough time to see what you want to see for real. Like, there's really a lot of free time, and sometimes I feel like for my trip in particular, it was overscheduled in certain aspects. I'm like, okay, yes, this is a class, so that was the other aspect. But I would have liked to see more of the cultural aspects of things, and not just in one day, because we did that tour. It was such a long day and so exhausting that by the end of it, it was just like, girl, I need to go. I need to go home. Like, I don't care where. I need to go to the hotel. I need to go home. I don't know what I need to do. But all in all, for me, it was a positive experience in that I did it scared. I did it I just did it. Like, you know, I had apprehensions about it because, again, people were kind of, you know, they're young people. They knew each other. Some of them knew each other from courses, you know, and even if they didn't know each other, they were in the same age range, so they could relate. I'm out of their age range, so I couldn't relate to some of the things. Obviously, as somebody who's done things that they have done in the past, I could relate to that, but I wasn't trying to go clubbing, or I wasn't trying to sit up in people's club. I wasn't trying to do all that. Like, and I guess a lot of people wasn't really there for the cultural aspect of it. They were more there to see the nightlife. They were there to shop and buy a lot of souvenirs, whereas I was there wanting to see the culture, wanting to explore, like, you know, and again, with the amount of activities, I was just exhausted. I could not do what I wanted to do in that moment. So I would suggest, if you're apprehensive about traveling abroad by yourself, do a group trip. I wouldn't necessarily say do a study abroad, but do a group trip, a short term group trip, maybe a week or a little 3 day thing. Get familiarized with travel, like understanding visas, understanding how to fill out the duty free cards, understanding how to really get through the airport immigration, understanding what you can bring in certain countries, because that's another thing. Certain places you can't bring certain medicines. So, especially in Asia, you cannot bring certain medicines from here. So, get familiarized and do your research before leaving. And another tip, don't romanticize the place that you're going to, because everywhere has its dangers. I think a lot of times, especially with Japan, now Japan is safer than here in many respects, than the U.S. I'm not even gonna hold you, but don't romanticize it as if it's this utopia of where you can't get hurt, because you can get hurt, especially if you are a tourist. If you're not Asian, if you're not Japanese, if you're not Taiwanese, people might target you simply for that fact. Pickpockets, things like that. Know the region, the areas where you're going. People still have different local gang groups, different, punks and people like that. It's in all cultures. So don't act like don't go like just not paying attention to your surroundings. Still be aware of your surroundings, even when you're in a foreign country, and more so when you're in a foreign country, because you don't want your passport taken, you don't want your identity and stuff, your money, your phone, none of that. You want to be, aware, like act like you would in any major U.S. city.